We are serving Miami. We are serving. Good morning, everyone. We are your first panel. We are building Web3 communities. I'm supposed to be up here with my merch, of course, because this is the company I'm promoting or representing. Is Natives Gaming. It's esports, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I want to introduce, well, actually, I want them to introduce themselves to you, and I'm just going to try to sit my old butt down in this really low chair. But it's my first time in Miami. It's only my second time in the United States, and it's my first time at Dcentral, so I'm like really, really excited. So thank you for having us, and let's get to it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming so early today. My name is Victoria. I'm in Web3 and crypto space from 2013. I was with Cointelegraph for many years, serving as a CEO and bringing it to the top positions on the market. And a year ago, I founded a PR and marketing agency called Encryptoland, and we have worked with many different brands, building communities, doing organic PR. So we'll be happy to share some insights today with you.
Hey everyone, my name is Jay Kurahashi Sofue, the VP of Marketing at Ava Labs. You guys might have heard of the company. We're one of the main companies behind Avalanche, the layer 1 blockchain. Have been in, let's go. I've been in the space since 2015, working mostly as a marketing leader, ran an agency for a few years, and then also was working in the Ethereum space. So I think the kind of diverse perspective is usually what I like to bring to the conversation. So excited to be here. Thanks.
Hey, I'm Zach, CEO of Genzio. We do Web3 marketing, community management. Been in the space since 2011, worked at Ripple and OKX, now doing marketing in the space. So really excited to speak about community with these other legends on stage.
Hi everybody, my name is Benji Friedman. I'm the founder and CEO of Everse. We're building a social networking platform and community building platform through the use of Web3 technologies. Prior to this, I was pursuing a career as a professional gamer during high school, and it gave me a lot of influence into the creator economy and all the issues that they're dealing with, which influenced me to try to solve those problems. Super excited to talk about community building.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to start us off with, when we say the word community, what does that mean to you? Because if we're talking about traditional, not even just tech industries, we're talking about traditional businesses. When you say a community, they're going to look at you like you've just grown and spread an extra head, like, what? Sorry, I don't know what you mean. But as we know, in this industry, without a community, you might as well not exist. You will not be successful. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you, and whoever wants to go first, I'm not going to enforce any type of order here, but whoever wants to go to first, what does the word community mean to you?
Yeah, I can take that. For just the quick and short expression here would be a group of people who have shared common beliefs and values, and this can persist both online and offline. And so that's kind of the long and the short of it.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in there. I think the main difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is that in Web 2 or traditional businesses, you have customers, right? So people buy your product, they go home, they consume it, maybe they leave a review online, right? In Web3, the community are people that you interact with every day. They're on your Discord, they're on your Twitter, your Telegram. And so when you build a community in Web3, these are people who are actively using the products that you've built, and they have passion about it. Like people who are really passionate about Dogecoin, for example, or different crypto, that makes them a community. Or different tokens or NFTs, much more so than if like you were just a bunch of people buying a certain product. So I think community is really about people coming together over common ideas and products. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think when you're building a community, you need to target people with a shared identity around the project that you're executing on. I feel like this is very important because when you find the right people to target while you're building a community, you want to make sure you're solving a problem that actually matters in life, where people can, participate and be incentivized to engage consistently in a positive manner.
For me, community is when people are together and they all have some particular problem they need to be solved, and they're doing that together.
Okay, thank you very much. To kind of put it in a bit of a nutshell, almost in no other industry, well, except Twitter right now, in no other industry are you going to be able to connect directly with the C-suite or directly with the CEO founder and have that type of instantaneous feedback and iteration and ideation with some sort of business project or concept, as you will, in this industry. So for me, I'm going to answer my own question, but for me, I think community is absolutely essential because they're kind of in it with you. It's more of a collective building exercise than just, hey, here's my product, I'm throwing it out to you, you buy it. It's more of let's build it together. And I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's kind of what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm reading my question. So number 2, we've all been in this space for a while, some of us longer than others, but I'm sure you guys have seen some successful examples of quote-unquote good communities, and what do you feel is the #1 component of a good community?
For me, following from the definition of community, really community should have some problem. It has the goal to solve this problem, and also I would say shared values and rituals. I feel like when people are engaged in some internal culture and they understand they can really influence their decision making and understand how to do it and how to help their community grow, then like it really drives the growth.
I think the most important component in a community is bi-directional communication. You really need to allow people to be vocal and be comfortable in expressing their ideas and opinions inside a community. This can also more incentivize participation and engagement while also being in a very positive ecosystem that you're participating in.
Yeah, and I think you asked for like a really good example of a community that's successful. I think Bored Ape Yacht Club, has done phenomenal in terms of community building. You meet someone who has a Bored Ape, they will tell you within 10 seconds of you meeting them. They probably have a hoodie on, they probably have the hat on, they definitely have it in their Twitter picture. So I think that's community, right? It's like repping what you have on all fronts, and I think they've done a phenomenal job of building that community. If you see someone who's literally wearing a logo of something that they own every day on every piece of clothing, that kind of brand loyalty is insane, and that can only be built through Web3, and I think that's a huge part of what makes this industry unique in terms of what we can do with people who are working with us and building with us, especially building in public. So, publicly showing everyone what you're building as you're doing it and getting community feedback while it's happening. I think that's very innovative as well and didn't really happen before Web3 became mainstream.
So Benji touched on a point with bi-directional communication. For me, I think I'm taking that maybe a step further and really highlighting the idea of empathy. And when you think about communities in bull markets, usually they rally behind you, especially in crypto. There's tokens associated with a lot of the things we do. And so it's just only human nature to really feel very euphoric during times of massive value accrual. And then also, the opposite is very true. During bear markets, you're going to have almost kind of like the pitchforks and sticks and whatever weapons you might have to kind of rally against what you're doing. And for someone that has been in the position, like actually all of us, where we've been in marketing organizations within Web3 or crypto, before it was called Web3, really trying to push our core narrative far and wide, you start to notice it's not necessarily about being right all the time. It's actually rarely about that. It's really understanding what people want out of your project. And I tend to find that, especially during the bear markets, this tends to be one of the best kind of pieces of advice. And I think the complexity of our space is with those tokens associated, like I mentioned before, any crypto brand, any NFT brand, anything that has a token gets treated like a publicly traded company on day one. That is an insane, insane, insane standard to be held at. And we are held accountable for that because of the new community building platforms like Telegram, Discord, all these tools that are very new to all of us. And we are sometimes navigating how best to use it. And also the dehumanization of these platforms. When you're behind a screen, your voice is arguably the most loudest it can possibly be in any human interaction, for better or for worse. And so sometimes, as weirdly as it sounds, I tend to just talk to community members on a one-on-one basis, if time allows, just to kind of take some sampling of, okay, here's one person who's super frustrated, and his or her gripe is the only gripe that he has is really related to the token price. And if you kind of start to internalize these things and really understand where you sit at when it comes to your brand and all of the people that you're talking to, then I think you can actually start to understand, okay, well, some things you can't change and they're out of your control, but maybe there's communications and marketing that you can kind of push through to buy yourself more time. And then similarly, if someone's actually showing positive signals, then you could say, okay, well, let's double, triple down on these people and see if we can, like we were saying before, in terms of like, how do we amass people to be on our side so we can actually amplify our effects larger than we could as a core team, but also broadly with everybody else that's part of the movement. So kind of the empathy point is really what I always touch on when asked this question.
No, that's actually an amazingly good point. And you and Zach, you mentioned Bored Apes. Now, I don't think they're bad per se, but it kind of leads me into the next question. And Jay, you picked up on on some ways the toxicity as well in communities, because we all know it's there. Sometimes we've been guilty of it, but we all know it's there. And the people behind the people building, like the builders, can be absolutely just bombarded with negativity and toxic messaging and, go to hell, or they're gonna attack you for something you actually do not have control over, because we are, and as you said, it's treated like a publicly traded company from day one. A lot of us are just starting out, and this is our first business, and to be held to that standard is amazingly difficult. So again, but Bored Ape Yacht Club. Oh my goodness, sorry. It's not that I think it's bad, but I think sometimes in that way the exclusivity is a bit exclusionary, and this kind of goes to a different, it's a whole other different topic, but when you talk about adoption of Web3, of tokenization, when you're talking about, yeah, my club's better than your club, we're just kind of going backwards. It feels like sometimes we're regressing into, cliques from high school, where we should be a bit more, it sounds a bit utopian, and I don't mean to be, kumbayaing, but we really should be having a much bigger tent than we have right now. So I agree with you with, hey, you're wearing what I'm wearing, and hey, we support this too, and that's great. I think we just need to open the tent a bit more. I mean, as a marketing strategy and as a, a money-making endeavor, yes, absolutely. I think from an inclusion point, I don't think it's there, if you get what I mean. If you get what I mean. So again, I am getting to a question. What makes a bad community? And what makes a toxic community? What do you avoid? Or do you try to avoid?
I think Jay spoke on this well about how focusing on token price too much is like not a great way to go. I mean, he's talking, I thought about like an iPhone or something. It's like everyone loves their iPhone or their Apple product regardless of the price of Apple's stock. The technology is great. That's why we love it, because they build amazing things. And so I think that's why people use it. And I would say, I agree, some of the Bored Ape stuff can definitely be exclusionary, and that's not a great thing. So I think you really want to find communities that are focused on the products that they're building and the problems that they're trying to solve. In terms of bad communities, I'm not going to call out any communities or anything like that.
No, not by name, but like what, as a general concept, makes a bad community, or what kind of ruins the vibe, if you're getting
ruins
what I mean.
the vibe?
Yeah.
Man, I think a lot of things can ruin the vibe. If you have like all dudes, that can ruin the vibe for sure in a crypto community. I think that's a big part of it. Definitely people who are like Bitcoin maximalists.
I think any maximalists in general will ruin a lot of things, to be fair.
That can ruin the vibe too.
I think the best example of a bad community are ones where the founders are executing on a certain idea that hasn't worked in the past. Also, where the community members are specifically just there for financial gain and don't really care too much about the long-term vision of participating in an idea that could potentially change humanity as a whole.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that when the first target is financial motivation, then when you go to all these toxic messages every time the token drops and the founders like, oh my God, what's going on? I think it's also coming from when the team does not understand who is the community for, and then they just start targeting all the random groups, all the people, and then you just have the community which does not understand what's the purpose, what's the target, and they just want the token to grow in price. Second, I think many community leaders do not actually engage community in growth enough and just like make a decision on their own. And on the one hand, you go and see a lot of people there, but sometimes it's just kind of announcement channel. Also, I think it's a very bad thing when you're not transparent with your community, and for example, you just ignore some difficult questions, try to avoid them. It's really good even to be vulnerable with your community and discuss the problems together. And I have seen really great examples when projects were in a very complicated situations, but when you just bring problems up as you are, you can be very surprised how community can actually help you.
I think one of the main themes I'm thinking of would be going back to the misalignment of values. Once those start to happen within your community, that could actually lead to negative results because it's not actually aligned to what you as a project lead or a project team is trying to accomplish. And I think that could happen from all of the different examples that we've been told, where it's lack of diversity. I'm not saying just gender or even ethnic, but could also span socioeconomic. I think socioeconomic diversity is extremely, extremely hard in a highly risky asset class like ours. Usually people who don't have means to really take large risks can't enter the space. And I know that that's kind of one of the narratives that we tend to push as an industry, and one that I think is actually the hardest to accomplish. So again, kind of goes back to let's just keep really understanding people. What do they want? And if you actually have to segment the community, that's actually okay too. No one ever said that you had to have one unified group of people leading the charge. And if you think about the internet, there's all these different types of personalities. I love electronic music, cats, Shibas. I'm Japanese, not because of the crypto reason, but you guys might not like any of those things. To rally behind the same thing doesn't make sense. And we have really unique backgrounds. We have incredible journeys that we've come to experience, and we also have so many more things to experience in the future. And so I think it's kind of goes back to scale, which seems really ironic that in marketing also we have this problem and this challenge, not only just on the technology side.
Thank you, everyone, for such thoughtful answers. And I wanted to touch upon authenticity. So, and what Victoria talked about, community growth. So, as founders or marketers or community builders, how do you ensure authentic community growth? And by authentic community growth, I mean let's kind of not go with the bots and not go with the paid followers and try to weed out the airdrop hunters and the snipes. And so what has worked? What have you seen that's worked for projects really well, and what has not worked?
I mean, you got to be on Twitter Spaces. That's a huge one. I mean, we're running a lot of different Twitter accounts for our clients, and I think, directly engaging with your community, talking to them, being on Twitter Spaces is huge. Keeping up with the latest technology and replying, engaging directly. So if you can have AMAs, talking to people, at Genzio, anyone can contact us at any time and directly speak to us. You can't do that at a lot of traditional companies, so I think that's pretty important.
I think one of the most important things in getting authentic growth inside of your community is having a really thoughtful PR strategy with your project. You know, consistently speaking out to the public, joining spaces, communicating in your Discord server, and also developing as many partnerships with great companies you possibly can. This will allow for many more people to see what you're working on and participate inside the community.
I think partnership strategy works very well when you're able to find good partnerships with projects with which you are able to build a win-win cooperation, and then when you do some collaboration with this community and help each other with cross-marketing, it works really, really well. And for example, even with the airdrop can be used in a very bad way. You would drop everything on the airdrop sites, and then you get all this toxic audience who just want airdrops and tokens. But airdrop itself is just an instrument, and if you use it through the right channels with the right messaging, it also works quite well. Yeah.
I think the combination of audience segmentation and also understanding your tools is super important. For example, if you think about Telegram, for some reason, we've all co-opted to be like the #1 platform for communicating to our community. I think it's useful in that you actually get into people's pockets basically instantaneously. But as you scale that effort, it starts to become a little bit less impactful and I think less authentic. That's kind of the issues that we found at Avalanche. We again had a community of tens of thousands. Now we're probably closer to 100,000, or at least a channel with members. Sorry, and so now with audience segmentation, we're seeing well there might be pro day traders. They actually should be in a smaller Telegram or maybe a different platform that might be more conducive to that work. On the flip side, developers. Usually it seems, at least the ones I've spoken to, don't really like Telegram for the noise to signal ratio. And they're really looking for tools and peers to help them build and improve their workflows. And Discord, for a hot second, was actually that platform. But then interestingly enough, the NFT community really co-opted that, and all of a sudden the noise for developers started to get much larger. And so at Avalabs, we're really trying to figure out, what makes most sense. Weirdly, we've kind of come full circle, and I think one of the options might be a very plain static like Stacks Overflow or like a forum of some sorts, just to really take things down. Reddit was the same thing. You saw Reddit boom in the ICO era. It was like the main thing everyone used to get information. Now it's a little bit noisy, and so I think the filtration and the natural course of these platforms is really something marketers should be in tune with. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to think that the strategy that worked 5 years ago is also going to work as effectively now or in the future, and I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Back in the day, we just had web forms. We had our own form.
Yeah.
This is only for this, and they're all subgroups. Developers had their own, and so they didn't have to mix with the day traders. That's absolutely correct. And I really like your point about segmentation. Actually, I mean, the basics. Here's your announcements channel. Here's your trade channel. Here's your main community, what have you. But I think even diving a bit deeper into that specialization makes a bit healthier communities. And Victoria, you used the word airdrop, so that makes me want to ask everyone. First thought that comes into your mind when you hear the word airdrop. No think, just say.
Fancy crypto term for giveaway.
Diluting your valuation.
I don't know if I have a single thought on airdrops, but I believe that they can be super beneficial and kind of containing a community for the long term if you do it right. I think one good example of a project that's executed on this pretty well is Artifact and their kind of strategy on an airdrop to airdrop to airdrop basis. When you purchase their first digital asset, every airdrop that you got after that came from the previous one. And they also gamified it to kind of keep people engaged and participating inside the ecosystem to get these airdrops. And I think that keeps people in the project for the long term and gets them to consistently hold on to them. So I think that they did a really good thing.
I think maybe my word would be think. Just take a second to think about it. Really understand what your role is within that airdrop, if you have one. Is it a long-term situation? Is it a short-term situation? Even before that, you could actually think about it and say, like, is this a scam or is this legit, right? Like maybe that's actually the first test. So really take your time. No one's really forcing you to hold these things. Not to say that also to suggest that you have to sell it, but really just like understand where you're at in the situation and how this can take you forward if it can, or if you believe in those values that is shared by the community that had given you those tokens or that airdrop, great, that's a positive signal. If not, maybe reevaluate.
Yeah, I think I've already shared that I think airdrop itself is just an instrument which can be used in a good way and in a bad way. I think like now it's already a little bit overused and everyone is so fed up with those airdrops, everyone is doing it. I would focus more on a content strategy and building storytelling around your brand rather than just doing airdrop, airdrop, airdrop.
Absolutely. So this is our final question, and if I could get possibly just a really short answer on everything, because I know we're coming up on time. What is your top tip for founders, community managers, and just general moderators on keeping communities healthy and happy?
I think the top thing for community managers is that you all have the ability to spark a positive conversation inside a community, and you set the tone. When it comes to founders, you have to consistently be engaged and participate and be communicative with everyone who's participating within your project and who believes in it. If you don't do that, there's a lot less engagement throughout the process.
I think it's just regular events, communication, and also just being very transparent with what you're doing, letting the community know what you're building, keeping them informed so that at every step they're pretty aware of what's going on, and so that they can be a part of the process as you're going through it. I think that's really important.
For any team member or even community members, I would say know your value as a project, and to kind of quickly expand on that, how are you competitive against your other competitors effectively? What is the thing that makes it so someone should choose you over anyone else? And I tend to find that in Web3, it gets a little bit convoluted. And if you can't articulate that well, then you should go back and figure out how you can do that, so then you can actually go out and empower everybody else to be on that same page.
I think it's super important to put a lot of energy from the start and think deeply what you want to build a community for, who you target, and really have thoughtful community strategy. Because like, if you start building a community and you don't understand what you're building, then you have this group of people, and it is much, much harder to transform this community into a high-quality community. Then I think it's also super crucial to identify like the core members of the community who really want to participate and grow, and to come up with some engagement mechanism for them and incentivize mechanism. And it does not even have to be always financial incentives. People just like love when you value what they do and show that you like want to be with them, and do some kind of rituals, appreciations, and stuff like that, and really like engage your community in growth of your product.
Thank you, everyone. I think communities feeling valued is a big thing just across the board. And it doesn't have to be monetary. Just showing them that they're valued, their opinion is valued, and their voice is valued. And I know we're coming up on time, so we're going to do really quick shout-outs before I'm kicked off the stage. I'll let all of you do yours as well. I'm representing Natives Gaming, natives.gg. We have an event on the 30th. I know you'll probably all be here, but it's in Dublin, and we're an esports company. So we're finally bringing Web3, well, not finally, but we're bringing Web3 into European esports. And we're in Division 1 in the NLC in Ireland. And so please go check it out, natives.gg/events. It's going to be pretty cool. And if any of you guys have anything to shout out, do it now because we're live.
No,
online.
I'm kicking you off. You gotta go.
Oh, we gotta go. Come on, quick, man. Shout it out.
You guys give it up for our amazing panel.
All it's gonna
Thanks, everyone.